Hello, and welcome to another episode of Five Alarm Task Force. I'm your host, Steve Green. Happy to be here with you. Happy to have you here with us. And we once again have a great guest, and we met via Zoom last October, but I had already heard about him. As a matter of fact, he was kind enough last summer to send me several of the magazines that I kind of burned my way through very quickly, reading them. And our guest today is Kory Pearn. He is the publisher, editor-in-chief, and CEO of CRACKYL Media, Inc. And I'm going to start doing a lot of promos. If you haven't read this magazine, this is not another trade magazine. Okay, this is a lifestyle magazine for you and me, firefighters, active, retired, thinking of going into it. The magazine can give you guidance about lots of the crap that we deal with. And that'll be the worst word I'll use. But it has been. And I got a lot out of just reading it back then, and some of the electronic versions I get. He is an author, keynote speaker, and mentor, publishing consultant for print and digital media, and a brand storyteller. He's a professional firefighter and business development and strategy enthusiast. CRACKYL Media was founded to assist us, firefighters, in managing the stresses and obstacles that we encounter on and off the job. The company also focuses on educating firefighters about career longevity and promoting health and wellness. And listen, we all know where we are. We know that we have to deal with our physical issues, injuries, maybe an LODI that takes you out for a while, but then you come back. But we know we have a strange lifestyle. That's just what this job is. Even if you're a volunteer, we have a strange lifestyle and timing. But the fact is that we took an oath and we want to live by it to the best we can to protect our communities, the people, and the infrastructure of our communities. And so CRACKYL Media helps firefighters in managing the stresses and obstacles that we encounter on and off the job. The company also focuses on educating firefighters about career longevity and promoting health and wellness. In spring 2021, CRACKYL Magazine was launched successfully as a lifestyle and health publication for firefighters in North America and beyond. Now, I'm going to bring up something here that this magazine could be very, very helpful to you. We know that we are losing all too many of our brothers and sisters to their own hand. And yes, we have a behavioral health initiative. But the fact is that sometimes we need to talk to somebody who understands us. Yeah, you can go to a therapist here and therapist there, but you want somebody who knows who we are and what we deal with. And that's a key role that CRACKYL Media takes in every issue that I've read. Talks about, has an article on behavioral health for us. And I think, again, that is so imperative today because our Jeff Dill, who was a previous guest, who monitors the number of suicides in American firefighters, told us just a couple of weeks ago that we are on the verge of losing over 100 of our brothers and sisters by the end of this year to their own hand. And so we're going to talk about their CRACKYL Media's dedication to the behavioral health initiative in both our countries. And, that's one thing, help can come from anywhere. It doesn't have to be your town, your community. It can be a magazine like CRACKYL, originating in our neighbors to the north in Canada. But those articles are valuable. And don't think that, they don't apply to me. If you even glanced at it, you know it applies to you. Kory brings an eclectic, something got in the way of my eye tooth and I couldn't see what I was saying. Kory brings an eclectic background in publishing and firefighting to his role at CRACKYL Magazine. Being a career firefighter of over 20 years, recently promoted to captain, Kory understands the dynamics of the job and how it directly relates to our physical and mental health on and off the job. He created CRACKYL to tackle those topics in a way that encourages and supports firefighters on a relatable level. He wants everyone who picks up the magazine or reads it online to leave feeling a sense of camaraderie and inclusion. Kory built CRACKYL around the 6 pillars of a firefighter, including relationships, stress, stress, finances, health, fitness and nutrition, and lifestyle. He and his fantastic team at CRACKYL Magazine have sourced some of the best experts up there to tell the story of the firefighter, be it at the firehouse or at home. Because we know, just because we take off the shirt, we take off the badge, we're still firefighters. That's always with us. You can find CRACKYL on social media with @CRACKYLMag, or you can journey over to their website, www.crackyl.mag. And by the way, CRACKYL is CRACKYL, cracklmag.com, and subscribe to their digital access for free. I want to get CRACKYL into the hands of every firefighter, making it an accessible source that can be relied upon no matter your situation. And that's Kory's quote directly. Kory, thanks for joining us again. So happy to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, glad to be back.
So I understand, though, there's been a little bit of an addition, a little mini baby version that's come out now. Why don't you tell our viewers and listeners about that, please?
Yeah, so in addition to the magazine, we've launched an app that we say put your health on your home screen. So that's kind of the direction CRACKYL will be going in a lot of ways to support firefighters and kind of, follow through with some of the missions and things that we, kind of set out to do. So the app is something that we can use as a tool. It'll follow, kind of what we're consuming, and what we're not consuming, which we can, kind of suggest that maybe you're missing some of the things that you're not gravitating to. So, and we're going to learn. We're going to learn what we are, we could look at a 20-year firefighter and start noticing that, that the trend could be more financial articles, where someone who is 5 years on the job, that may not be what they're interested in. It could be, it could be more starting your family, could be more sustainability, could be more about getting involved, could be more leadership. So we're hoping that these trends can help us, bring in more things that help us in our journey when we're at that point.
Right.
So that's the key.
That's key. So it's available on both the Apple and the Android.
That's right. Yeah. So it's available. It's free to download. And it's available. So very much like the magazine is digitally, we want firefighters to have access to this content.
Right. And, anything and everything that we can do to help our brothers and sisters in the daily job, but also when they're off working time, but still thinking about working time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the key, because very few of us ever can shut it off. Just go home and turn the car off and think, okay, I'm no longer a firefighter.
Yeah.
But it's always there with us.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm 21 years in now, and I've got a few years to go, and definitely trying to navigate that and figure out what firefighting is to me, and what my family is to me, how I fit in, on all these things. So when I do retire, I have a sense of self, I think, when I do retire, and hopefully I'm at peace with that. But time will tell. So.
Right. That'll do it. So how has the reception been for the magazine in the down in the lower 48?
Yeah, it's honestly, it's as people are discovering it, when I say people, I mean firefighters, and all industry experts. It seems to be they're pleasantly surprised by, could be the graphics, could be the way that we're outlining these articles, could be the way we're just our tone of our delivery, where we take a topic that may not be that, that exciting, and we kind of morph it in a way that it does appeal to us. And, we do know that kitchen talk, the candid conversations that we have, and that's what this magazine really is. It's not, we're not talking at you. We want to talk with you. And, we are not perfect. And, I don't even know if I want to be perfect. I think it's really about just trying to, just trying to be present and, just, I keep saying it's discovery. There's no, there's no formula for this job. And it changes every day, and we have to change with it or we break.
Right.
I
Well,
think
that,
that's,
yeah,
yeah. So it's really just, so this content, so when people see it, they're, like I said, they're pleasantly surprised. It's nothing we've ever had before. So I keep
good.
saying, check it out. If you don't like it, it's not for you. Perfect. But if it is, and it can add to your life and help you unpack this profession in a way that you understand it, then, you know, that's great. Like
Right.
that's purpose.
Well, I think it helps, the issues I've read from what you sent me, which I'm very grateful for, and then the ones I've been reading online, it really does have a different flavor than the other trades, because it's more focused on, um, I'm not going to say necessarily holistic, but focused on the inner firefighter and what he or she sees every day, what they deal with every day they're on duty. Uh, so, listen, we know some days are easy, only a couple of calls, minor calls, and then sometime that crap hits the fan. But we have to be ready for both.
Yeah, and I think, how can we handle that if we're not, you know, sound in our personal lives? So that's, the magazine and what Crackle stands for is helping us stay whole. And it's not really helping us be more. It's about us not losing ourselves along the way. And that, which is important to kind of understand that, I think. Most firefighters, if not all, are, we get into this profession with good intentions. We get into this because it's our calling, or we're compelled to do this. And nobody wants to be broken. No, we don't want to be divorced. If we choose to get married, we don't want to, distance ourselves from our families and, become isolated. Nobody wants that.
Right,
So it's really about trying to figure out how we keep ourselves whole and we understand how we fit into these ecosystems and our friend groups and our setting our expectations. I worked yesterday, got home this morning. Yeah, I purposely sometimes book podcasts when I am tired, because I think it's more authentic. I'm not rested. I'm tired, but this is what we do. And you know, yeah. So I think it's really just trying to keep us whole. And what we are not trying to find loopholes in the system. We are trying to understand the system. We are trying to, you know, learn about, again, how we behave, and be able to spill some of this water out of our cups, so we can, when we go to work and we're dealing with something, we have that capacity to be able to even begin to understand it, opposed to being stressed out, strung out, hungover, tired, and miserable. And so, it's it's like anything when we're stressed, that one more thing, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be your shoelace breaking, and that's what sets you off. So if we can start to kind of just step back a little bit and leave a little bit of breathing room, and we know when we're tired, we know when we're kind of peaking. I know I definitely do. And my wife is the first to kind of call me out on that. And it's good that she does. But then I get frustrated because I'm like, well, I can't fix that right now. Right. So this is kind of where we derail. And, we could be fighting about something and we don't even know what we're fighting about anymore. And I think, and the last thing I want to do is come home tired and fight with, I'm so glad to be home. So these are the things that we're starting to understand and, and hopefully starting to learn about ourselves. Are we fighting because we really believe in what we're fighting about or arguing about, or are we just tired?
Right.
Like maybe it's just not worth it, right? So,
Oh, sure.
so it's one of those things, you say you can be right or you can be married. So, it's, but it's almost like you can be right or you can be a firefighter too, so it's picking your battles.
Right. It's funny. We've had numerous Canadians on. We had Chief Arjuna George on again,
Yes, great.
uh, and just in the end of last season, I brought Brad Davidson back on,
Great.
and he had just finished the book, and so we were talking about that. And when I read it, I had no idea that we have brothers and sisters up in Canada who they're firefighters, but they fight a lot of different stuff than we have down here in the USA. And when I read a couple of Brad's writings regarding the explosion in the mine, and then the furnace blowing up, and he barely got out of there unsinged. I said, wait a second, this isn't just firefighting. This is the real down and dirty firefighting that our brothers and sisters up north have to deal with, depending where they live. But I think that also opened my eyes to the difference that our firefighters in our two countries face. Sure, a lot of it is the same routine. We get medical calls, we get small fires, we got some large fires here and there. But most of us don't fight, are not firefighters dedicated to a mine that's working to take out chemicals that are dangerous. And it really did give me a better view of what Brad and I had talked about several times before, just an easy conversation that wasn't necessarily an interview, but it really opened my eyes that there is a major difference with our brothers and sisters up north. Then you don't have a Miami Miami Beach to go and do rescues there on the beach. You get a little bit of spring, a little bit of summer, and then 13 years of winter.
It feels like, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we down in the lower 48, we need to express really our support for our brothers and sisters in Canada, because while our titles may be the same, ranks, this one's a lieutenant, this one's a captain, whatever, the effort that the firefighters of Canada put in, and again, there are a lot of volunteers in Canada as well, right? The majority of your firefighters are volunteers in the
Right.
country, right? Yeah.
Right.
So we have the same thing here in this state. We know that there are approximately 1.4 million firefighters in the U.S., and of that number, about approximately 74% right now are volunteers or part paid. So when you think about what we deal with here in the US and then what our brothers and sisters in Canada are dealing with, there really is a dividing line because up to a certain level in Canada, it'll be similar. And then you get to higher climbs, and then all that regular stuff that, gets pushed, tucked away a little bit because you have to know the real hazardous stuff. I imagine then that hazmat is a major effort in the Canadian Fire Service.
Yeah, I think it's like anything where, it depends on where you are geographically, right? Like, US, you have seasons as well.
Right.
Firefighters that deal with snow and storms. Yeah, we may have the mines and things, but not everybody's dealing with that. So it's really just, based on that. We don't have, the different terrorist, high populated areas and for short periods of time where it's, whether, sporting events or different things. So yeah, there's definitely differences, but it's all based on obviously where you are too. So
Right, right.
no, I
And,
think
and your dedication to the task at hand.
yes, yeah. But I
Right,
think really that's kind of the point of this is, and that's why I think it's so hard to nail down, what do firefighters need is because we are, as much as we have the same titles, as you mentioned, we could have completely different careers. And even the person beside you could have a completely different career
right,
just based on your experiences and stuff. So I think that's why it's kind of like chasing a ghost in the sense of trying to figure out what we need and when we need it, because it is a little bit different, depending on where you are and what you see, and who's around you, even who's your mentor. You could be on a platoon that it's very disconnected and isolated, and everyone's kind of not talking, and then you could be on another crew that's just, it's like family, and you do talk, and they pry things out of you, and you don't have a choice but to kind of divulge, what you're going through and how you're feeling and things like that. So again, that can be so. I definitely tactically, and call volumes and things like that is one side of it for sure. And then the other side is, which is again, the problem is we're all so different, even though we're, you know, it could be just we're so close, but so different.
right, right. Yeah, I have, in a couple of weeks, I have a firefighter from the UK going to be on the podcast. And I said to him, you can find a little bit more information about the podcast on our website. And he writes back to me, what are you telling me for? I've been on the website and been watching this show for close to a year already.
Oh, that's great.
And now he'll be a guest because we're going to be talking about firefighting in the UK. Also different types of apparatus. I think Canada and US share same basic apparatus manufacturers
Yeah.
from the majors, but this is all different types of firefighting equipment they have in the UK. So I think it's when he reached out to me, I thought it was a great idea. I said, what an advantage to get somebody from across the sea who's in the same job that we do, but have all different ways of doing it and different
That's right.
types of equipment.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
one of the things we learned from the tragedy of when Princess Diana lost her life was we learned that while we think we have the top grade of all the equipment we need, in France, I'm not sure about the UK, but in France, they have ambulances that are portable triage and ERs, and they can handle a lot more right on scene or on the way into a hospital than a lot of what we can do in our rigs. But I think instead of some people say, well, I'm jealous about that. Don't be jealous about it. Embrace it.
Yeah.
Learn that there are other ways of doing the things that we do. Sometimes they're better, and sometimes they're equal or even less than what we do. But the fact is, and we talked about this in the last meeting here, was that it's really all the same because we all have the same job. We may do it a little differently. We may have different exposures that we work with. But the fact is, this is the job, whether career, volunteer, part pay, WUI, this is the job, or to decide to volunteer to help our community. I'd say the vast majority of us came in to do that. And whether it's career or volunteer or part pay, we want to make things better. And we challenge ourselves because nobody comes in to the fire department already knowing everything he or she knows.
That's right.
So you have to be willing to open your mind and not think about when Dad was burning the leaves in the metal barrel, and you said, bring the garden hose over here. Well, so you do that and you help them. That's not firefighting. You just put out a little brush fire in a garbage can. So what are you seeing in the feedback and the year and a half that I've had the pleasure to know you? What are you seeing as feedback that you're getting from the readers of CRACKYL?
Well, they're definitely seeing value in it. They're noticing that it is something that we didn't have. So, like I said, they're surprised when they find it, but then we have people that, when we go to trade shows or different things, it could be, in a session to say who's heard of CRACKYL. And over time, more and more people have, raised their hand. And that's how we know that it's working. And it's, usually it's half the room at this point that has heard of CRACKYL. And that, so that's good. That's good that this, that it's starting to catch on. And then we're getting better at what we're doing. So as our conversations continue to grow and the people we network with, we're getting more and more voices into the magazine, which gives us a better cross section of tone and ideas and inspiration and, just experience. So I think that is really the key to CRACKYL is how we are diversified that way. And, we're a platform. We're a platform and we connect. That's what we do. And so as we grow, it's just going to get better and better and more on point. So
right. Now you were just down here, 48 for several trade shows.
yes.
And how was the reception in those shows?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, we always say these are our people. Like when we get out of our office and we're at these shows, it's I come back and I'm back home and I don't, it's hard to kind of remember the trip and the journey home because I'm thinking about all the things and the conversations that I've had and just how rejuvenated I feel and to know why I work around the clock on this. Like my work-life balance has been thrown out the window trying to build this magazine and this need and this resource. So, I get rejuvenated by seeing the people that, that are kind of, number one, part of these organizations that are fighting just as hard, and are harder than I am. And, we have to, support these organizations, and some of them get funding, some of them don't. They're, and I think these are the things that I'm kind of discovering and learning of how things work. And I think as a firefighter, coming home and going to work type thing, we don't look at that big picture.
Right.
And that's why I think part of, when I do leave my office, I feel like I always learn way more than I educate anybody on anything. And that's important. So I think I'm a big fan of, getting firefighters or telling firefighters to, if they're in a rut or if they've been on the job, 10 years, 15 years, go, if you've never been to a trade show, if you've never, kind of experienced any of that, like, get out of your bubble and get your head out of the sand type thing, and go and see your other brothers and sisters that are from other cities, other, neighboring departments. And you'll see that, it is rejuvenating, like, for sure. And I've met some amazing people, and they make me better. And, I think that's really what it's all about. So I was asked to, the last conference was FRI, so
Yeah.
Fire Rescue International. Um, the support from the IFC, Survival Health and Safety Division, um, has been kind of overwhelming in the sense of how um, they want to support their firefighters, and they're leaning on different organizations to help them do those things. And I mean, to me, that's the kind of the top of the food chain. And if that's their attitude, that's what we want. That's the type of leadership we need. Um, so it's things like that it's when you get a finger on the pulse of kind of what's happening. And again, as a firefighter on the floor, you don't know these things are happening. You don't hear these conversations.
Right.
You feel like you're alone and no one's fighting for you. But these organizations they're fighting for you. Like, where would we be if we didn't have, these
Right.
things?
Listen, with the IAFF taking that strong stand against the PFAS and PFOS in our bunker gear.
Yeah.
Without that support, if we had not got them on the wagon with us, we probably would still be fighting. Yes, we're still fighting to a certain extent, but now it's through the entire, at least in the U.S., and I think a lot of where you are too, are saying we're not going to stand for this. This is a carcinogenic problem in our bunker gear. The gear that when you call us for an emergency, we put that gear on to come and rescue you. And now, every time we put that on, we're not worried about a collapsing building, stuff like that. We're worried about, are we going to get cancer from the bunker gear we wear? And Ed Kelly, who's the international president, has been really that gung-ho conqueror out in the front of us, leading every firefighter career. He doesn't make any differences between career, volunteer, part pay, WI. He wants to make sure that every firefighter is safe when they put on their gear. We have enough to worry about with people going through our traffic zones, and we lost a fire police captain just last week. He was helping somebody on the roadway parked his car correctly to help block it, and a intoxicated driver just came right through and killed him. And then I'm not against lawyers, but then they get these lawyers to get them off of the problem, off the the accident responsibility for it. And we can't have that. It's just, these men and women are not necessarily paid executive salaries. Volunteers do it for free. Part pay only get paid if they make a call and stay with it. But the fact is that I think some of us do it for the money, but I think the majority of us do it because something, pardon the pun of using the word lit, something lit inside of us. And we just said, I want to do that. And, I know when I joined volunteer company, my mother and father-in-law, and, my wife, why are you doing this? I said, because it's there. I started with Red Cross when I was 10 years old, taking all their classes right through all the way up till uh, senior in high school where I got my WSI, and then started teaching at the college I went to. But I felt that's something I always wanted to do, was help people. And I responded with my little small first aid kits back in those days.
Yeah.
Now, since I was disabled out in '85, I have always carried a full BLS complement in my car, extra ropes, gloves, um, electronic flares, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To do it because I still stop, maybe not as often as I used to because of my health, but yeah, it was just a few months before you were on the show the first time last October. I had leaving a market, a large store parking lot. The lady in front of me decided to blow the stop sign where it came back to main road, and the young lady coming down the street at the regulated speed had no choice, and she T-boned her. I just jumped, threw on my lights, put on my vest, grabbed my bag, and started working. I called 911 and gave them the everything. But I think a lot of us, not only are we proud of what we do, but we're always willing to help with the knowledge that we have.
Yeah.
And that's a lot different than a lot of other professions that
Yes. Yeah.
on call or not on call, we see ourselves as always on call.
Well,
Always
that's
ready to help.
kind of part of the problem, and that's what we're kind of discovering is that, we stay in that state of ready, and our cortisol levels are always high, and even when we come home, we're still ready to go and respond, and so you're not that you're looking for things, but you're definitely aware of your surroundings, and if something did happen, you're going to do something. So this is what we're learning, and this affects our sleep. It affects our whole physiology, that we're literally, for 21 years, I've been in this state of get up and go. And, it's just, we're learning about these things that are impeding our health, and, and having heart issues. We're just discovering that atrial fibrillations and flutters and, heart failure and all these things are prone to these because of this environment that we're in. State
Hypertension
of
as
mind
well.
that we're, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
But I think, or I would hope that with the feedback you're getting from readers or those you met at a conference and you got to know them a little bit, I think that those are the people who are looking for that.
Yeah.
They're, how to do their job, they know that. They still learn that. But you have to learn how not to do the job.
That's right. That would be the hardest part of it all for us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no doubt about it. People still ask me, why do you still say that you were a firefighter? I said, because that's what I was. I was a volunteer firefighter for 8 years. I said, I didn't care what the call was. I didn't care how bad. I didn't measure my my success of if somebody was injured and nothing was done about it. To me, we always are ready. And I think, as you said earlier, we're conditioned that way on this job.
Yeah. You may not start out that way, but we definitely end up that way.
Yes, exactly.
That's
And we have to learn how to balance.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll take a break here, and when we come back, let's talk about what, as you're putting the magazines together, what you're learning about what the readers are saying. What are you learning from that? And are they talking about things like we just did about how to shut off the magic red switch and say, hi, I'm daddy, I'm husband,
Sure.
I'm home, or I'm mom, I'm your wife, I'm home. Let's get the kids ready for bed, for food, dinner, and then tuck them in and read them a story, stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah.
As opposed to just sitting by the radio, the scanner, or you have radio you have walkie from the department, and you're listening to that all the time. Well, if you're not on call that day or that night, you don't have to listen to that. Listen to Sirius XM radio, or
Sure.
Yeah.
Something.
Just remove yourself from the spotlight of every single call. Yeah, when we know that when the kids are young, they're gung ho. They want, I got to get this call. I want to get that call. I want to get them all in. And then 3 years into it, they're saying, do I have to go in that call?
Yeah.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break here. You're watching the video. There won't be anything different for you. If you're listening to the audio, well, we're going to have a couple of public service announcements, and then we're going to be back with our guest, Kory Pearn, the editor-in-chief of CRACKYL Magazine. And we're going to say it here. We're going to say it in part 2 of the show. But the fact is, if you're not reading CRACKYL, you can read it for free. There are online versions. Okay. And if I've been out all these years since 1985, and I could still learn something from the magazines that Kory kindly sent to me, and then the issues I've read since, there is so much that we can learn from Kory and the team at CRACKYL. We'll talk more about that too when we come back. As always, please stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to this episode of 5-Alarm Task Force. I'm your host, Steve Green. Joining me today for the second time in just under a year is the publisher and editor-in-chief and CEO of CRACKYL Media, Inc., the publishers of CRACKYL Magazine, and that is Kory Pearn. And in this first segment, we spoke about a lot of the similarities that we face as firefighters in our 2 countries. Some of the things that are different. But the fact is, when you get down to bedrock, we're all doing the same thing. And Kory, as a 20-plus year veteran of the fire service, felt that something was missing in our reading. We have great trades, both countries, great trade mags out there, lots of pictures, lots of good stories about what went wrong, how it was saved, etc. But we're concentrating, or CRACKYL is concentrating on the human who's the firefighter, the person who has a life outside the firehouse, whether it's career, park pay, volunteer, WI, because if you can't balance who you are as a person, you could very well have difficulty being a good firefighter, not with just your skills, but your firefighting skills and rescue skills. But what about relating to other people? And the first one you have to start with, which is always the hardest, of course, you have to start with yourself.
Yes.
Right?
That's right.
So we were just talking in the break about the goal that you set, and a pretty high goal, but I think you're meeting that goal as well, to help firefighters, men or women, and I shouldn't say or, men and women in the fire service in both our countries. We're always running in the job. We always have to do this on the job. What happens when you finally get to go home at 7:30 the next morning, and you might have another job, as Kory does? Luckily, it's this job with CRACKYL Media. But I don't know about you, but I don't have a switch that I could shut off when I came back to the house after a call or after a training pitch in. I was still who I was. I was husband, father, but I was also a volunteer firefighter. But I also worked 80 hours a week at a regular job. So I had to be super keen for that
Yeah.
because that was my bread and butter. So
Yeah.
how are you seeing the individuals as we're not moving away, we're adding to the reading material besides trades, a terrific magazine with great writers and yes, open caveat that yes, CRACKYL has published 2 of my articles based on lifestyle, not on firefighting, because you guys today know a lot more than I ever forgot since 1985. But the fact is that it's important to me for you as firefighters, whether you're listening in the US, you're listening in Canada, wherever you're listening or watching the video. This kind of podcast is to help you get off the rat race wheel and be able to slow down and enjoy your time off from serving so you can take care of yourself and your family. Errands that have to be run, pick up the kids from school here, go take them to the movies here. We all have double lives. You can't get away from that. But it's how you balance those lives that CRACKYL really aims for.
That's right.
So from what you said in the first section, you've really been getting good feedback even from your U.S. readers as well.
Yes, yeah, from all firefighters alike, really. It's and as we kind of evolve, I'm even noticing areas that have been, forgotten or never mentioned is even, dealing with injuries, dealing with,
Absolutely.
so we have the firefighter that's busy, has maybe a side hustle, and trying to balance work-life balance. But to me, those are all good problems. That's pretty common for us. But then you have firefighters that are, taken out of that role, against their will in the sense of injury. I myself, I had health issues, with my heart. And I think and even being there, I didn't realize the impact of being taken out of your life and how that really starts to kind of dismantle the person you want to be, and you morph into, again, I use that word morph because I think it doesn't happen overnight. It's a transition. And then the doubt or we start becoming someone we don't want to be. That's not, and it's hard. And especially, again, through our personalities and behaviors and things that we are accustomed to. We're the go-to people for, again, all our friend groups. So now you're injured, no one's calling. We have a hard time with that because that it's part of our makeup. It's part of the fibers of our being that of who we are. So I would like CRACKYL to kind of continue to kind of unearth what that means to be injured, whether it's temporary or permanently, and then how that affects us, and how do we get back to our center, right? And I've met people, again, through trade shows and different things. I have, on a monumental scale, been affected by these conversations that I've had. And then, and again, being off and almost losing my life, I can get there. I can get there with these individuals that have a story to tell. And I think we're really just scratching the surface of what, CRACKYL is doing, and what it's capable of possibly doing. I think is kind of where we're at, because I think there's the obvious, and then I think there's these subcategories and things that we need to kind of explore, and we don't have research in a lot of these areas. So it's something we're going to have to do, kind of together,
Sure.
and podcasts or talking. And I think a lot of times, again, who are these people that are getting injured? They're probably more than likely not the ones wanting to be on a podcast to talk about it, because they're, again, dealing and coping, and they're not in the right headspace, all these things. But those are the guests we should be having on,
Right. Right.
and like, in real time, and be like, what's your frustration today?
Live podcast.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
it's just, so I think that's how, again, if we can kind of have these synergies between individuals and align people that are going through the same things, we're going to understand more of what we need when those things are happening. And so, but that's just,
Absolutely
again,
right.
that's just one thing.
Right.
Dispatchers and communication, we are there, kind of, what are we doing in that area, in the sense of, being affected by calls and not seeing it or being there, and no closure, and what is that doing to our people? And um so it's just like, there's a lot of peripheral, communities that we need to kind of start focusing on and helping as well,
Absolutely.
and are all tied. So, and I think it's really, as we learn, women in firefighting, we have, different needs at different times, and we're learning because of, whether it's the support that the fire department is giving, when, whether it's a pregnancy, or what the policies are. We have to write these together, you know because we don't know that until the problems happen, we can't address it in
Right.
some way. We try to get ahead of that, but, again, it's just, there's so much. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do to get where we need to be.
Sure. Sure. When we talked about the separation from the job you love, in talking with Andy privately a couple of times, she was wanting me to examine my own traumas. And I told her different things. And one of them was when I got injured uh, in the second department, to the point where the fire surgeon and my personal orthopedist didn't want me to fight fire anymore.
Yeah.
And as I talked with her about it, she was able to read with her amazing uh, abilities, because I think she can hear you emote just from
Sure.
on a podcast, or on the telephone.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the fact is that she talked to me about a week later and said, your two biggest traumas was when you couldn't save your father because there was no paramedic bill in the state of Massachusetts outside of the city of Boston. And when you had to stop fighting fire. She goes, that's probably the biggest trauma you've had in your life, connected to the fire service. I said, well, I didn't have any choice. She goes, that doesn't make any difference. That makes it even worse.
Right.
Because you had to stop. And I had to think about that for a couple of months and admit to myself that, yeah, that is. And that's maybe why I still live by, once a firefighter or always a firefighter. No, I'm not riding on apparatus now, but many of you have heard before, I carry a full BLS stock in my vehicle. I have ropes, gloves as well. I have prying tools, etc. And my family says I probably stopped well over 200 times. I was the first or second of any responder coming in, long before law enforcement or EMS fire showed up. I was already there tending to the patient. And she was right about the thing with my dad too, because I was there. And had I been back in the state of New York, I could, which had full paramedics there, volunteer or paid. I was in Massachusetts, where I grew up with my parents, and when the two attendants came up from the evidence to the apartment, and they said, "Okay, we need the scope, we need the medical bag." This, and the guy saying, put his arm on my shoulder and said, "Steve, we don't have that." So, "What do you mean you don't have it?" He goes, "We can't carry it yet." I said, "But Boston City Health and Hospitals, yeah, that's them. They're the only ones in the state. The legislature has kept pushing back the paramedic bill for our rest of our community." So turned out he was in VTAC. We got him to the hospital. We got him out of VTAC. He was well enough to eat lunch. Sent me to get a haircut because my dad did not like long hair, and that was because of the fact that when he had his first heart attack, he was in the hospital for 2 weeks and couldn't get a haircut. And my hair and my dad's, our heads are identical, but so just a little strip. But he wanted that cut short. That was very important to him.
Right.
So I went to go to my cousin's to get a haircut. I probably wasn't there 5 minutes when the phone rang. My cousin picked it up and said, it's Richie, my brother. And he put on the phone. He says, "You better get back here right away." And he had already, by the time I got there, it was only maybe a 6-minute ride, but by the time I got there, he had passed. I wasn't angry at the hospital that he passed there. That's what we took him to get better. I was angry because I couldn't take care of him. Because of a stupid political party difference.
Right.
My dad died that day when he probably did not have to. And so that is those two traumas I lived through.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
I know guys who had a lot more years than me who got disabled out. And it's as hard for them as it is for me. They had, 15, 18, 20 years in when they got hurt. And it happens.
Yeah.
We know that it can't happen, but we sign the paper anyway because it's what we want to do. And that's what makes us a little bit different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bigger than ourselves. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
I said it's bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
We're just makes sense to us.
Right. And I think that what we've been talking about with the magazine and the app now coming out, I think gives all our brothers and sisters an opportunity. I hate to say it this way, but grow up. It was cute when you were a little boy, you had a little red plastic fire hat on and you had the little pedal fighter engine. That's the time to play firefighter. But 18 or over, you get on the job, whether, again, career, volunteer, it's real. It's real.
Yeah, and everything's connected. Like again, there's, the saying is make time for your wellness or you'll be forced to make time for your illness. And it's so
I like
true.
that.
It's so true. Like, and we have a slogan that we use. It's, what you aren't changing, you're choosing. And I think that, it really kind of sums up a lot of our, decision making that we do. And again, if you're working 2 side jobs and ignoring certain things that should be priorities, I guess, in the sense of, or that you want to be priorities and you're not doing those things, then you're choosing that. Like you know what I mean? So it's simple, but you really have to pay attention to where your attention is going. And we're all guilty of it. So.
Yeah. I mean, and it's one thing also, we're not talking about stopping decorating a room in your house with a couple of lights and awards that you've received, the certificates you've earned, going to extra training classes and stuff like that. That's all good. That's healthy. That's your little place. But you have to know when you come out of that room, you're family guy again. And you got to be with your family. whichever way, if you have to go, you work a second job, you're helping them. If you're home and you're doing chores around the house, you're helping them. If your wife doesn't work, has chosen not to work, but you come home and you're helping out, boy, that's amazing. That's a way to solidify your relationship. That you share what you go through, but you don't burden with what you've gone through.
Yeah. And I think, as we give so much of ourselves to everybody that when we do get home, we're like, okay, now it's me time. Meanwhile, you're not done yet. Your family, if you have a family or, they need you now. And so it's like, that's when you want to be kind of like hang up the hat and put the feet up and that type of thing. And it's like, no, you can't. And I think most firefighters don't do that. We do come home. We do, probably coaching some of the ball games or, or sports. And,
Yeah.
we don't come home and just shut it down. We come home and keep going. And I think because that's, what we do. And again, so it's just, when do we ever really just kind of sit back? And then when we do get our moment, hopefully it's a healthy moment. Like maybe you go fishing or maybe you spend some time with friends or things like that. But, so it's really, again, just trying to make sure that you carve out time for yourselves, which is, I think you do have to be a little selfish and, and take that time for your hobbies and things like that. I'm a big fan of distractions. I think when you're off duty and in between calls, the more things you can kind of do, to me, it kind of pushes the space between time on and time off.
Sure.
And I think that is, I am busy and I enjoy being busy because I could be off, for 24 hours and feel like I've done things like a week has gone by. So to me, I feel when I come back, I'm happy to be back and to do something different. But meanwhile, it's only been 2 days. So,
Yeah.
so I think that is, kind of a mental vacation in the sense of the time span. Anyway, so it's a balance and trying to understand that a little bit better.
Right. I've always used the term for that as decompression. There's bad decompression if you're underwater and you tank and you come up too fast. That's bad decompression.
Yeah.
But when you can step out of the door of the barn, head home, that's where you can decompress in a safe environment. Whether you live by yourself, you live with a roommate, or you have a family, you come home and take those first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just sit in the chair, kick the boots off, have a cup of coffee or whatever, cold drink, whatever you want, but just sit there and give yourself 15, 20 minutes just to decompress.
Yeah.
What a hell of a night this was. I can't believe we had 6 calls, all of them, over half hour, 45 minutes. I'm beat. And that's okay to say you're beat. There's no harm to it. And again, that's part of the behavioral health initiative, is that it's okay to say you're tired.
Yeah.
Because you are. You're not lying when you say you're tired. You run a shift like that, a night shift like that. Yeah, you're going to be wiped out that following morning.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I also want to something I didn't bring up in the first segment, which I should have. You mentioned, thankfully, our dispatchers. And I think I said with Chief George, the fact that our dispatchers, call takers and dispatchers, are truly the first responders.
Yeah.
We're like second or third in the row. But without them, we wouldn't have anything to do.
Yeah.
So make sure when the special day comes up, I know it pops on the calendar once a year, of first respond dispatchers and call takers day. Make sure you do something to express your thanks to your dispatchers and your call takers, to tell them how important they are to us. That will go a long way too. Yeah,
Yeah, it's respect, right? It's respect their roles and their positions, and hopefully they'll respect our roles and our positions, and we're in this together. That's again same.
exactly.
Yeah,
We are in it together
yeah,
because we're a team.
yeah. We
There
can't do
wasn't
it without each
anybody,
other. Yeah,
right? If
yeah,
nobody was answering the 911 rings, how are we going to get the message? You
yeah,
have to drive down here a mile and a half to ask for the fire department. You know,
yeah.
most departments don't use a published phone line anymore. Um, but we need to realize that everybody in this field of first responders, all three classes, all first responders, our call takers and our dispatchers, all live with the same basic trauma
Mhm.
hanging over the head every shift.
Absolutely.
And so, as much as we're working to take care of ourselves, which we should do, and we absolutely need to do, we need to remember the other people who support us, that let us do our job. How about our mechanics for our apparatus? We don't have a good mechanic to rely on. We're not going to, you get in the rescue, the heavy rescue, and the battery won't start. You got a problem. You got a 4-car pileup on the interstate, and now you can't even get your rescue started.
Yeah.
We can't afford those kind of
No, no.
lapses. We don't have the luxury. The, the florist doesn't deliver them exactly at one time. He delivers them an hour and a half later. Okay, you can deal with it. But in our business, again, all three, if we don't have support, we just can't do our jobs.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
right. Yeah,
and it's a team effort. It includes our recovery people, our tow truck operators. We know what's going on the roads today, both our countries and other countries as well. We know that drivers are distracted, and we're finding more injuries to firefighters and other on-scene emergency personnel, and we're also losing too many. And I would say I'll have to check with our friends at the Driving Safety Institute in Maryland, but I think that we're losing more firefighters to these distracted drivers than ever before. And even when we go through all the right things of angling an apparatus, whether it's an active apparatus or one you keep in reserve just for this, to uh, stave other drivers from coming into the emergency scene, you have people who are under the influence of alcohol or narcotics, and they drive right through it. And most of them come out uninjured because they're so pliable. The body they don't stiffen up. They don't even know what they were doing. And they plow in and they take the lives of people there or seriously injured firefighters who then get wind up just getting disabled out. And as we've already said, that's a really traumatic issue for any firefighter. And listen, you went through it yourself.
yeah,
Yeah, but you have to know, Kory's also a great example of resilience and coming back after a
yeah,
major health issue. So that health issue doesn't necessarily erase who you are. It's something you have to deal with. Do it right. Follow the orders, your doctor's orders,
yeah.
your therapist's orders, and you're going to come back. You probably might be able to come back too. Okay? And that's the key because we know what happens.
Yeah. It comes back to that,
Yeah,
we don't have to do this job, we get to do this job. And that's it really it can be that simple.
right, right. Well, Kory, I can't thank you enough. Is there anything else you want to bring up?
No, I
Anything?
think I'm good. I'm good. Like as far as the magazine, it's there. Again, it's a tool. We do have, you can get it in your department. We do have those capabilities to, kind of multiple ship the magazine. So there's that. And then the app is something that's going to be a work in progress. So get it, get it on your phones and let us kind of get to work on building out to be something that you can use again as a tool. And I'm kind of looking forward to the next steps here. So
Right.
yeah, so
As are we. You can find Crackle Mag at www.crackle, and that's with a Y between the K and the L, cracklemag.com. And you can find them on social media at Crackle Mag.
yeah,
And you can sign up for an electronic version of the magazine. There's no cost for that. And probably most important, if you read the magazine, pass it on to somebody else
yeah,
who doesn't read it. Pass it on to a brother or sister and show them, you know what? We're beating ourselves up when we don't need to.
sure,
We got to read this and tell me what you think about it. That's the best thing
yeah,
we could do.
yeah, yeah.
Pass it on to somebody who needs it. Well, again, Kory, thank you so very much for taking time to visit with us again. I truly enjoy the magazine. It's a breath of fresh air in, especially in the U.S. where, the major trades have ruled the roost. Or, fire engineering's been around for over 100 years, I think, already. And Firehouse has been around since the late Dennis Smith had an idea to get news out and articles out to the firefighters. So they're a great magazine, very, very useful. A lot of learning. You should be able to get some learning credits. To read, you read a magazine cover to cover, you should be able to get learning credits from them. But it's a great magazine. There's so much to learn on the healthier, the wealthier of life, not wealthy money, but the wealth that life offers you if you keep yourself open to it and not just focus on the alarm bell ringing in your firehouse or on a pager. There is other stuff to do out in the world. Yes, we're dedicated to the job we love for the most part and the job we do, but we also have to remember we can't do that job if we don't take care of ourselves. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Right. So again, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Folks, if you're watching the video, that will conclude this part of the interview. If you're listening to the audio, we'll have a couple of things that follow up after these words. But again, our sincere thanks to Kory Pearn, the publisher, editor-in-chief, and CEO of CRACKYL Mag, and their great magazine, CRACKYL Magazine. You can get it for free, but you can learn a wealth of knowledge from reading the magazine, visiting the website too. That's really a good thing to do as well, because there's also stuff on the website that you can learn from that can help you as well. So thanks for tuning in, friends, and we'll be back with another episode very soon. Remember, stay safe, stay well. Let's remember to make sure everyone goes home. Let's remember also to take care of each other. Bye-bye now.